Hello. Welcome to your Hello Haven Mavens podcast. My name is Candace Smiling.
I'm Laura.
We're very excited to have you joining us today. We have got an incredible little mini series, and we are so excited to be introducing you to amazing speakers and people who just inspire us. So we're going to invite you to sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or maybe a glass of wine, and join us as we take you on a great little adventure into people's lives who inspire us. Hello. It is Candace and Laura Lee coming to you for another edition of our Hello Haven podcast. Whew. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been amazing.
I'm sure if you're listening in on our series, you've gotten some value. I know that Laura Lee and I certainly have, as we've been sharing. If this is your first edition or introduction to Hello Haven, go back and check us out on SoundCloud. You can find a number of our different recordings, and we're pretty excited to be sharing with you our guest today. So our guest today, Laura Lee, is someone I got to see on stage. She is a powerhouse of a woman. She was talking about a book called The 12-Week Year, and I was like, I need this book because I tend to get a lot of things done when there's a deadline. So I was like, I need to get my hands on this. Long story short, I was able to get the book, work with her, do more work with her, hire her, anyway, and now we've become exceptionally good friends. So it's neat how Whaley's on her way, and now we get to interview her, and I'm pretty excited about it because she's been up to some big things. So, Ranchelle, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear. Woo!
It's always great when technology works.
Oh, right? Yeah, we
celebrate.
We can count on that today. So I'm pretty darn excited to have you on our podcast today, Ranchelle. I know that you're an exceptionally busy woman. You've got a lot on the go, a lot of stuff that you've been doing in transition as you really get clear on what you're doing. So let's give our listeners sort of a little background on you, because stories are always a great place to start, and then we'll have some questions for you.
Absolutely. So it's interesting, when we were talking and you said share my story, and then the first thing that popped to my head was which one? Because I think like any woman, any entrepreneurial woman, we have many stories, right? That we share. Right? So, and I think in this particular instance, my passion for business started at a young age when most girls were playing nurse and doctor, or nurse and teacher. I was out playing business person. Right? And my dad had a briefcase, and he was dressed up in my mom's clothes. Right, my mom was a professional woman, and so she was wearing suits all the time, and so that's kind of what I played in. And so I wanted to have my own business for a very, very long time, and I was fortunate enough to start by having some Curves franchises. So that's kind of where my entrepreneurial hat kind of personally started in 2000, and was fortunate enough to have multiple franchises. And I say that because I really do think it was fortunate. It was in the right place at the right time. It was just kind of moved so I could do that. I learned a lot. I had 8 Curves franchises for up to about 12 years. Halfway through my career at Curves, they did what I refer to as a rebrand, made some small changes, and it affected my businesses in a really, really big way. And so I always share the story of literally my phone stopped ringing. Things that were working before all of a sudden stopped. And so I quickly had to adjust and figure out what was going on. I had a lot of people that I was supporting. My former husband was retired, an early retirement, and I had in-laws that I was helping, and there was just a lot going on. And so I, panicked because I realized, holy crap, things have really changed, and I didn't adjust, or at that point hadn't adjusted. And so I think, thankfully, I'm resourceful. And so I, quickly started to look into, okay, if people can sell like a yellow widget online, why the heck can I sell someone's life expectancy, what's going on, what are the challenges that they're facing. And I, dove deep into a career of marketing. I've always had that passion for sales and marketing, but I, at that point, really, really dove deep and learned so much by going down to the States. And so I say I have a $60,000 education. I don't have an MBA or anything like that, but what I do have is a lot of experience flying down to the States and studying with people who who still are today known as the gurus, Frank Kern, Brendan Burchard, Jeff Walker. I learned all the things that I kind of know about marketing from them, and then brought them up to Canada to implement different businesses. So had great success with Curves, came back up, was doing weight loss coaching, decided to do social media management. I'd taken a course from Ryan Dice in the States, came up, and at that time, really, Facebook was just kind of starting. So when I opened up my social media management business, as I'm using air quotes here, everyone looked at me as if I was crazy, that Facebook was just something that, university students, high school kids might play with. And business owners, sane business owners would not even touch that. And so it was the first thing that I'd ever done that wasn't successful. And it wasn't successful because my timing was off, right? And I think that happens sometimes when we have a brilliant idea, we might be ahead of the curve. And typically sometimes what I find with the people that I work with, they think that they're behind the curve, right? That when they have things like, I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough. And they start looking at, what they're doing wrong versus looking at it from the perspective of, maybe I'm just ahead of myself. I had a business partner who used to say to me, Ranchelle, you're so far ahead of everyone that you're lapping behind everyone, and not to worry about it. And so, when I feel that way too about myself and about maybe should I do this or what should I do, and people are going to like this, and are they going to want to purchase this, and all those kinds of things. I think of my former business partner and what she says, I'm like, okay, am I ahead of the curve? So do I need to back up a little bit and kind of reassess? But so certainly that's where my career started, Candace, with Curves and that particular opportunity. That's my story, and I guess pass it back to you, the two of you. What kinds of questions would you like to ask?
Well, I love that. It's so interesting to us, Ranchelle, because we've been recording this mini-series, and we didn't necessarily plan it, right? We threw it out onto social media that we were looking to record this because we had a platform to promote, right? And so that brought us a certain people who were in that space. And then we reached into our network and said, hey, we'd like to feature you because we love what you're doing, right? You inspire us. And the crazy thing, Ranchelle, is we didn't necessarily ask people what they were going to talk about beforehand. And I feel as if each one of the recordings that we've done for this mini-series has built on the other one. Yeah. It's been the craziest, coolest thing. And I'm hearing that in your story as you're sharing with us, you did this, and then you did this, and then you did that. And sometimes I think it's so easy as women, for sure, right? We see where we want to be, and there's quite a few steps that it might take to get from point A to point B, right? And it's not that you're not going to get there, but you might have to go through A, B, C, and D, right, before you get where you want to go. So what would you say to the woman who has an idea, she'd like to do something with it, and she's not really sure where to start? Where's a great place for her to start?
Cool, that's a great question. You know what? Certainly your own type of market research. That's probably like a standardized answer in that sense, because anybody that's in the marketing world will say, well, you need to look into it to see if this is something that's out there. And just because it's not out there doesn't mean that it's not a good idea, right? Like the social media management, no one was doing it. And I had lots of people say, well, no one's doing it, so maybe that's an indication that it just can't be done. When you say those things to me, well, what happens? I get a little bit more determined. And so certainly I think that's a place to start. And what I mean by market research is talk about your idea with not necessarily your trusted relationships, meaning spouses, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, parents, because sometimes what I find is that they're really just wanting to protect us, and their feedback might be that it's not a good idea based on their own personal fears. So I would seek out somebody that you respect in business and has built businesses, and then kind of pitch the idea based on that. Don't worry about the language and the copywriting and all that kind of stuff that you do in your marketing, but just say, hey, I've got this idea, and this is what I'm thinking about. I would ask both male and female, because men look at things from a completely different perspective.
Yeah, we've had that discussion with
right?
I've interviewed two men in our podcast, and it's really entertaining because, the comment came up in one of our other recordings that, men do what they want to do. They say what they want to say, and they're usually surprised when we say we struggle with that, to put ourselves first. And that's an entertaining piece that you bring that up. Yeah, so they do look at the world differently, and that can be powerful if you have a new idea.
Absolutely, because they'll ask you questions, right, that you may not have thought of. And the other piece is, you're going to talk to your tribe, but talk to people outside of your tribe as well, right? So people who, there's what I refer to as buyer types, right? There's basically 4 buyer types, depending on who you talk to. So let's just say there's 4 or 5 buyer types out there. And if you speak to someone like yourself, like-minded like you, so for example, I'm often referred to as an action person and a nurturer, right? So those are my buying behaviors. I need conversation. I need community to purchase something. And you speak to all of those individuals, then you'll get like a base answer. So reach out to people of different personality types, different buyer types, right? The researchers, they're going to look at things differently. So for example, accountants, lawyers, doctors, dentists, those individuals look at business just a little bit differently, or business ideas a little bit differently. So that's certainly where I would start for sure, is those places, and of course online. But I mean that may or may mislead you, to a different direction. So.
Well, and I think back to when I got started, that was advice that I got. I got 2 pieces of advice. One was to find a good network marketing company, get tuned in, because they give you a lot of great training. And so that was one. And number 2 was take as many successful business owners out for coffee as possible, right? And I remember thinking to myself, I can't really afford coffee. And the person that was talking to me said, you probably can't afford coffee, so take them out for a tea, right? Take them out, sit them down, and ask them questions, because usually they're pretty darn willing to share with you secrets that they have spent time, money, and experience on. So they're priceless, right? And I remember that, and that was one of the many ways I discovered. If I look back, I can clearly see I've saved myself a lot of heartache and money by having those kinds of people that I can say, hey, I have a question. How do you deal with this? I have an idea. And one of them, I remember when I took her out for coffee, she asked a great question. And it was, what keeps you up at night? And I was like, oh, that's a good question, right? And I said, well, obviously cash flow, right, which is the business owner's, ongoing, right, cash flow. And then she was willing to dive into that with me. And so, if for our listeners, if you're thinking about something, go tell them what keeps you up at night, because chances are they have also laid awake thinking about that same thing. And they can share that with you, because I know she did, and it was amazing, the ideas that came out of that conversation from one question, what keeps you up at night?
Absolutely. And what's interesting too is that a lot of commonalities that keep us up at night, right? As I'm saying this, and the numbers 444 pop up on my clock. That's interesting for those of you who watch numbers.
I saw it too, and I was like, "Oh, that's very cool." Yeah.
So, but there are basic stressors that keep people up, right? Money, time, health, relationships. And there's some commonalities and all that. It's like objections when you're in sales training or the sales process. Your objections will be very similar to that, right? I need to speak to my spouse, right? I need to think about it. I don't have the time. I don't have the money, right? Things like that. And you're right, Candice, when you spend time, really taking people for coffee or hooking yourself up at networking. I mean, you and I both, I'm sure Roly is too, both fans of networking.
Oh yeah,
right. There's a huge opportunity for sure.
So, out of respect for our listeners and really, giving you some of the floor, you have a platform. What is 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 things you would love to leave with our listeners as you embark? And then as you're doing that, share with us ways that they can find and connect with you, because I know you are up to big things as well.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I can leave with you. Okay, so I had a great conversation with a woman today from Major College. 80% of new businesses are being opened by women. Over 50% of existing businesses are owned by female entrepreneurs. Less than 2% of women make over $1 million in revenue. Not talking profit, but $1 million in revenue in their business. And my belief is that it's one of the things that happens that's different than with men is when a man needs something in his business, he does his research. He'll ask how that's going to happen. So I won't go into details of that. He does his research. He makes the decision on the best person, company to hire, and he hires somebody to do that. So let's say a website, right? He knows he needs a website. He does his research on what kind of website platform should happen, finds a company or person, hires it out, it's done. When a woman needs a website, she does the same research, and then she goes and finds a course to take to build her own website, right? And takes the time to learn the course to build the website, only to find that she's not a website builder, right? She has a passion for, let's say, health and wellness. She's trying to build a website, and it keeps her off track of what's important. So when I talk about, when I speak to that, when I'm presenting, women will come back and say, I don't have the finances for that. I don't have the resources for that. And I always say to them, it's about possibly sometimes being resourceful and finding ways to have a website built on your behalf, as an example, that will work until the next one. There are things that you can do right in the moment until the next one. So I think that's one of the key differences between a male entrepreneur and a female entrepreneur is men play often to their strengths and hire out their weaknesses. Women spend time understanding their strengths and trying to up-level their weaknesses. So that's my, right?
That's amazing, because that is me 100,000,000%. As I've spent so much time over the last year learning new skills that ultimately I could hire out for. I enjoy learning, I really do. I enjoy having that knowledge. But I do get caught up in learning things that I don't need to.
As her business partner?
Yeah. I just went on a kick. It took me like a week of 16-hour days learning how to do a Shopify store that I just closed down. So I was like, I don't got time for this.
Right? Exactly. And that's common, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and yet, as you said, right, some of the things that you've done that haven't worked, you're now using. I look at some of the things I've done, and you know this, you've been friends with me for a while, the number of false starts we can have as women, we're like, oh, no, that's not, no, let's change that. And I think that's one of the powers that we have as women entrepreneurs. We're a little more willing, I think, to admit, okay, that didn't work. Let's make a shift and figure out how we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I'm now implementing all the things I learned in 2013, 2012, 13, 14. Is just coming to Canada from a marketing perspective, right? So there's a lot happening in this world of sales and marketing for sure. So yeah, so that would be like my aha moment to share with everybody, especially there's probably a majority of female entrepreneurs, on the podcast, listen to the podcast afterwards. And so it is important to have a base knowledge of it, and at the same time, just be aware of where that's taking you, right? Is it adding to your business, the value of your business, or is it actually devaluing the value of your business, right? Because we need to look at this as a business opportunity.
Yes, right. Like you go to the butcher, and the butcher charges you for the meat you buy, right? So when people come to you for whatever service you're offering, that's what you charge, and that's what they buy. Yeah, I follow. That's amazing. So with that, that's a tidbit that I'm sure a woman's going, wait, talk more about that. Yeah. So if a woman does want to connect with you, how do they find you, Rachel? How can we connect with you, and how can our listeners find you?
Well, I'm still really old school. I like relationships. So how about this? The best way to get a hold of me really is to connect with me on my phone. So I can't believe I'm giving everybody in the world, yay, my phone number, but here it is, because I really do. If you have questions, you can call me, 780, or text me. So 780-679-7275. So certainly that's probably the fastest and easiest way to get to me. You can find me on Facebook, because I'm on Facebook as well. Either my name, Ranchelle Van Bryce, that's my personal one. And again, seriously, connect with me on my personal. My business page is Your Conscious Marketer. That's what I'm listed there. And I have a website in progress. It's up and for the day, but it's probably going to be down tomorrow because I'm rebranding. And so, but certainly you can check out what's happening. It's kind of in the works. So, that's the last piece of, I guess, information I want to give. Certainly, I guess it would be advice, is that don't wait for everything to be perfect before you decide that you're going to do your business. Because if I have to wait for my website, right, to be up and running to the point of perfection that I would be happy with it, that it really represents my brand, that means I'd have to postpone this call and all the things that I want to do this week for probably about 4 to 6 weeks. And so why postpone it when you can, right, connect with people in other ways and move forward, right? One step at a time.
That is great, and I was going to ask you for that piece of advice too. So that's perfect, Ranchelle. Thank you so much. We are at our closing part of the call now, so we will let you go. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. Candace, do you have anything to say as we let Ranchelle go?
No, thank you, Ranchelle. I'm really grateful.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, ladies. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. So, listeners, as you know, please share, like, invite. If you are someone that has a story to be shared and you wanna join us, please reach out to us, and you can get in contact with us at Hello Haven Mavens on Facebook, Haven.Mavens on Instagram, and our personal pages as well.
Oh, I guess we have an email too. We never talked about the email.
We never talked about
HelloHavenMavens@gmail.com.
Super simple. And then obviously, if you want further episodes, SoundCloud.com/Hello Haven Mavens.
I just love how Laura Lee struggles with this every single time. Our listeners are probably laughing every single time without fail. Again, ladies, you do not have to be perfect to be making a difference. You can be the candle, you can be the match. Just go out there and go get her done. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.